Welcome to the Core Women Podcast, the place for women entrepreneurs, authors, and self-starters looking to build community and gain valuable insights through expert interviews with women at the top of their game. Join your host, podcaster, producer, expert coach, entrepreneur, and author, Dr. Summer Watson, as she aims to inspire and empower you through these candid conversations. Lean in and embrace the journey. It's time to start the show. Here's your host, Dr. Summer Watson.
Welcome back to the Core Women Podcast. Today, I have the incredible honor of welcoming Lori Murphy, an empowerment coach for women, award-winning author, speaker, and the host of the SHEThrives Influential Women podcast. Lori's journey from facing addiction to becoming a vibrant, transformational life coach is deeply powerful. She's passionate about helping women break free from self-doubt and negative self-talk to create the life they truly desire. In this episode, we'll talk about building confidence, embracing self-love, and taking bold steps towards personal transformation. Let's dive right in and welcome Lori.
Hi there.
Hi. So excited to have you on.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm pumped.
Yeah. I'm so excited. So before we jump into your professional life, if you were to describe your journey in one word to this point, what would that word be and why?
I would have to say resilience. I say that because I have had a series of multiple rock bottoms and setbacks and falling on my face. And every single time I have mustered up the strength somehow, some way to standing back up, dusting myself off and moving forward.
And that, do you feel is innate or learned or both?
Some of it is innate. Some of it, I think I had in me, and I didn't realize I had in me for a number of years, but I do think it was also learned by watching other people do the same thing, learning from their journeys.
Yeah. It's always nice to have those models, right? Or
Mhm.
those people in our lives that we learn from. It may not be that we do things exactly the same way, but just having those ideas about how we can take that first or second step to get back up and to actually build that confidence, right? Because we do
Mhm.
have that strength, that internal character. A lot of us do, and some more than others. So,
Mhm.
how do we do that? By individual to individual, and it looks different for each of us. Thank you for sharing that part of your story. Your personal transformation is really remarkable from facing alcoholism to becoming an empowerment coach. What was the pivotal moment that made you choose a different path or a path that just lit you up?
I actually talked about this and dove pretty deep in it in the recent anthology I co-authored, Warrior Women, Volume 3. And it talks about that pivotal moment. And that pivotal moment was when I was arrested for drunk driving. I was just about a week into my 29th year of life. And, I had, like I said, a series of rock bottoms before this, but this was the moment where sitting in the back of that police car, now, mind you, I did not hurt anybody. There was no accident. I just, was recklessly driving. And by the grace of God, an officer pulled me over and didn't let me talk my way out of it. Like, he arrested me and put me in the back of that police car. And I had this moment where my loved ones who had passed on, it was like they were sitting up in heaven around a glass table looking down, trying to figure out what was going to get me to stop, because I was destroying my life and everything around it. And it's like I could see them, and I heard this voice say, "You're done. You're done." And it was like that moment where, even though my outer body was not calm and peaceful, I was yelling, I was combative, I was awful. But inside, there was just this moment of clarity where I was just like, I've become everything I said I wouldn't. And I truly believe that my dear cousin Mike, who passed away from pancreatic and liver cancer just about a month or two before this, was like, this is what's going to stop her. And he placed this in my path. I really have this spiritual belief in that. And that was really the moment that it lifted and I started my journey.
Wow.
And it was not an easy one. It was painful. It was a very painful time in my life. But today I can say I've always had gratitude for it.
It's really interesting how you can go back and look at that with gratitude.
Mhm.
And also in that moment, there was maybe that lack of congruency. What was
Mhm.
happening on the outside wasn't what was happening on the inside.
Yeah.
Yet somehow those two things did end up merging where you could say, I want to start a different path.
Was really a want,
Yes.
Like I said, I became everything I said I'd never be and everything that I stood against. Deep down inside, I knew I was a good person, but this disease of alcoholism had such a grip on me that it was changing me for the worst and becoming the type of person that nobody could trust, nobody could depend on, nobody wanted to be around.
Yeah. Let's go back to what you said about you knew you were a good person, but somehow, somewhere along the path, something was going on, or many things were going on to influence this behavior.
Mhm.
What do you think some of those things were?
How much time do we have?
I mean, you are talking to a doctor of psychology. So, like, we don't have the Freud time where we're going to put you on a couch and do, no, no, that's not what we're going to do.
We'll
But
keep it
touch on,
basic.
yeah, keep it
Um,
basic. Like, what are a few things that were influencing that feeling?
Years of suppressed pain and trauma. I mean, it goes back to young childhood, feeling like I never belonged, feeling out of place, wanting to be seen and heard and loved, and feeling like I was constantly in a corner, to a very messy divorce with my parents and bullying in school. I was sexually assaulted, and you go on and on and on to just this very dark place, a place of depression. And I really just had this need to want to be loved, seen, heard, appreciated. But it was hard because I didn't have any of that for myself, because I had it drilled into me that I didn't deserve it. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. Everybody was usually better than I was. Like, perfect example, my Girl Scout troop in kindergarten. Everybody who ended up in my troop was upset because they ended up with me and not with the popular girls. You know what I mean? And it was very well known because they'd come to troop meetings and be like, I'd rather be in Janine's. And it's like, okay,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
that was just how I remember my whole life being,
Yeah. So
you
you
know?
felt displaced. You
Yeah,
felt like you didn't belong. And, I'm a big proponent of Adlerian psychology. And Adler says, when we feel we are the other and we don't belong or aren't part of a community,
yeah,
we do start falling out. We do start depressing. We do start becoming more siloed
yeah.
and finding things to kind of patchwork that pain.
Yeah, I used to walk around at recess in school alone. No, none of the kids wanted to play with me. I mean, like you said, right? Like it's like the whole psychology behind it. Like if you asked me back when I was 5 years old if that was the path I was going to take, I wouldn't even know what you were talking about because it
Yeah.
seemed like it was so normal.
Yeah, right. Because again, there was something you were doing to kind of medicate and numb that pain or really fulfill something where you could feel more confident, perhaps, when you were altering your state of
Yeah,
being, right? So there's many things that happened along the way in regards to changing your lifestyle, taking incredible strides, losing weight. You've got all these really unique facets of your journey. So talk about those things that started happening that you started taking steps towards making change in your life. How did you begin?
it all started when I walked into my first 12-step recovery meeting. Walking into a basement and raising my hand and admitting that I was powerless over alcohol and my life had become unmanageable was really like that very first initial step. And in that process, I fell in love with growth and transformation, taking a hard look at myself, my behaviors, my part in things, and realizing that the reason I did X, Y, and Z was because of something that might have happened to me in the past. You know what I mean? Just really
Yeah.
taking responsibility for myself and my actions. And like I said, I fell in love with that. And I fell in love with growth. And eventually I started hearing about personal growth and development. And I started looking into that. And I started to connect with people on social media that were really big into this whole new world that I never knew existed. And I was like, I want more of that. So I started diving into that. And the weight loss comes in because when I stopped drinking, I replaced alcohol with food and became obese. And when I was 34 years old, having migraine issues, severe backaches, I was smoking like a pack a day. I can't walk up a flight of stairs without losing my breath. I mean, that was some real clear indications that if I didn't start doing something different soon, I was going to have a lot of trouble at a very early age with my health. I quit smoking. It was like I literally was lying in bed one night and I'm like, I don't want to smoke anymore. Like I need to find a new outlet for my stress and I need to make some changes. So I quit smoking and I signed up for Planet Fitness and I just started making small changes in my life. And I got more in touch with healthier lifestyle and making lifestyle choices and steered away from diet culture because anytime I dieted, it didn't work. And that was because there was no follow through. It was like I hit my goal and I was like, okay, like I'll have that cookie now. And now that I've deprived myself from eating that Oreo cookie for 6 months, I'm going to eat the box. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right. Yes.
Because it's
Oh,
so
yeah.
good.
Right.
But the real weight loss came when I really dove into the healing from the trauma from sexual assault. It was like that was a huge weight that got lifted. And I started letting go of toxic people in my life. It was like it just went whew, right off.
Wow. It's amazing on many levels because you recognize that and then took the steps to really help heal yourself. I really like what you said too about the dieting ideology. It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change. And when we see it as a diet and you met that goal, it's like, okay, how do you reward yourself? Do you go back to those traditional habits that you once laid the ground for in
Yeah.
regards to eating the same way and acting the same way and
Yeah.
behaving the same way? Or do
I've
you
earned
change
this.
them?
I
Yeah,
deserve it.
right.
Cookies are the reward.
And the reward.
And the reality is my mindset wasn't in the right place.
Yeah.
On the outside, I wanted to look good. I wanted to, I was in a relationship with somebody who wouldn't touch me because I put weight on. And
Mm,
I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be heard. I wanted, you know what I mean? I was doing it for the wrong reasons. But when it came down to, there was no other factor other than I don't want to be in my 40s and not able to, I had thought I would might have had some children. I ended up not having children. But I was like, if I have kids, I want to be able to run around and play with them.
yeah.
And at this rate, that just exhausts me, right?
Yeah,
Like
right. I'm tired.
I can't
Yeah.
do it. I physically can't.
Yeah.
Like I want to be able to walk up a flight of stairs
Yeah.
without feeling like I'm going to keel over. And I remember it was only like maybe a few months into my journey. And I went out for a walk and ended up doing like a walk run. And then I had all of this energy and I was in my mother's neighborhood. And there's a hill that you go down to get to the bottom part of the neighborhood. And I remember I started jogging. And then I was jogging backwards, running backwards up this hill. And I ran into my mother's house, so excited because that was something I didn't see myself ever being able to do.
Oh,
And I did it. And I was
yeah.
like, 6 months ago, I couldn't even walk up the stairs. And I just ran backwards up a hill.
Yeah. How awesome is that? And boy, did that feel empowering. Did that have an impact on your confidence? So let's talk about that. As someone who empowers women daily, what are the most common barriers you're seeing holding women back from creating the life they truly want?
One of the things I find the most is fear or imposter syndrome, limiting
Mm,
beliefs, which hinder their confidence. I have different methods and plans that I have in place to focus on, like a 4-step method in overcoming fear.
okay.
Fear to freedom. We basically hone in on one specific fear and go from there. So I find that when you take 3 small little fears, they usually link into one massive fear. So we break down the barrier of that one fear and find an actionable steps you can take to overcome it. And once you overcome it, we can move forward from there. And if it's staying on working on your fears, we work on fears. I want to have the confidence. Now that the fear is gone, I need to feel confident in myself that I can achieve this, this, and this. So there's plan in place and steps to take for that. I think once you get to the bottom of overcoming the fear, that's when you can really get the confidence to be able to really thrive
And that is really important that there's a process, right?
Hmm.
There's a process in place and one where you work with your client to really come together and see how that process is going to work for them as well. If they're actually going to use that process and take those steps, because we know that if we tell somebody to do something and it doesn't feel comfortable or it's not realistic for them, it
Hmm.
doesn't fit within their parameters, they're most likely not going to do it,
Right.
or they're going to do it and self-sabotage in some way. So it's like, I love that you have a process where you're working with folks to really break it down with them. Break it down where it becomes something that's really workable
Hmm.
for you, for them more importantly, and then you hold them accountable.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times it is about that accountability part. So you started going to meetings, and
Hmm.
that's where you held and learned how to hold your own self accountable because you had a group of people saying, hey, but, let's look at this.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back here. What's going on here? Right. And they'd
Yeah.
ask you questions. They'd ask the group questions. And, when you've been in a group situation, whether it's an open group or a closed group, there's some safety there too, where people can
Yes.
ask those questions and maybe come up with different ideas that work for you.
Yeah.
So I love where you began in your story, how you help other women, how you're a best-selling author. I mean, there's so many things that you have done that are so incredible, and I absolutely love your story. You talk about building confidence in simple and practical ways. Can you share a few techniques that listeners can really kind of hold on to today to, let's say, get moving, get started, and really help with that negative self-talk, perhaps?
I would say that if you're finding yourself having the desire to do something, but you keep saying, I can't, like, I can't lose weight, or I can't get to the gym, or you're finding different excuses, essentially, things you're telling yourself, and you're finding yourself saying, I can't, switch that to I can. I can get to the gym. I can go for a walk. I can start the business, and throw in a few other affirmations. And you say this to yourself every day or every moment that this starts to creep up, and just basically challenge the negative thoughts by switching it into something positive. And I think that that's like an important thing to at least start, really challenge those negative thoughts.
Yeah, such a good point. As we do come to the close of the interview, my last question is somewhat similar. If you were to give the listeners just one tip about a first step, like an important first step that they can take towards intentional transformation, what would that step be?
Community, finding yourself that support network. If it's one person, a coach like myself, or another coach, somebody that can keep you accountable. Believe in you until you can believe yourself. I think that that would be the very first thing, is finding that person or that community that is feeding you with positivity, encouragement, accountability, and guiding you.
Yeah, that bit about community and accountability. Oh, so powerful. So powerful.
I would not have been able to get sober without the people that showed me how. I heard
Yeah.
this thing when I first got sober that said, stick with the winners. And I took that seriously. So I sought out the winners,
Yeah.
you know?
I hear what you're saying. And, it feeds back into something where people, if they've gotten arrested and they've been through things in their life and they've been told that they have to go to A, B, or C meetings, right? There are
Mhm.
certain people in those meetings that are going to the bar afterwards. So you know who you're going to choose when you choose to trust and find accountability and community in folks.
Mhm.
And I guess that's what you would call the winners. Well, thank you, Lori, for joining me on the Core Women podcast today.
Thank you so much, Summer. I really, really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. You can follow Lori A. Murphy on Facebook. Her Facebook group, She Thrives Together. Her podcast, She Thrives. Influential Women on Instagram at Lori_Murphy_coaching and on LinkedIn at Lori Murphy.
Thank you for joining us on the Core Women podcast with Dr. Summer Watson. We're so glad you're here and would love to connect more with you. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Core Women, and on Twitter at Core Women 1. For more about Core Women and Dr. Watson, visit corewomen.com. Want more support and resources for amazing women like you? Great! Join Dr. Watson and Jen Fontanilla at the Life, Love, and Money Collective, a core women production that aids in understanding the key traits that might be getting in the way of living a life that you are absolutely passionate about. Connect with Summer and Jen and find out more at thelifeloveandmoney.com.